This is Colton Lochead along with Bill Dentzer from the Las Vegas Review-Journal. We just wrapped up the governor's first State of the State address, Governor Sisolak's first State of the State address. And Bill, what was your big takeaways?
Well, as he had said during the campaign, as we'd heard in the kind of rumblings before the speech, it was going to be about education, it was going to be about healthcare, it was going to be about economy, and the 3% raise, I think, to public education is probably the big takeaway in terms of the education topics.
For the highlights, he proposed a 3% pay raise for teachers. He proposed several new funding and additional funding to new programs and just existing programs like Victory Schools and Zoom Schools. So just on that side, he also talked about a significant increase in funding for healthcare. And what else kind of stood out to you in terms of maybe some of these more finite or smaller details?
It really was very much a kind of a progressive kind of vision of what he wants the state. He talked about funding or supporting affordable housing in the state, other education. He talked about career and technical education, funding that in addition to higher education. He's got money in there for both. He's got money in for graduate medical school education. He's got proposing money for 2 new school buildings within the system. Even with what's potentially happening with bump stocks at the federal level, he proposed a lot of gun control and background checks within the state, just in case some of that doesn't get done at the federal level.
And one of the other things that really jumped out from his speech was his desire, he said, to increase the state's minimum wage from the current $7 at $7.25 right now. Didn't give very many details. Didn't give a minimum or anything as to what that number could be. But he says he's working with lawmakers, working with kind of stakeholders to kind of figure that number out. But he did say that is one thing that he really wants to get done this session.
Right, and we got some quick reaction from Assembly Republicans who said that's a complete non-starter. They don't think raising the minimum wage, they see it as something that's deleterious to business and that's going to disrupt whatever recovery that they're experiencing after the years of the Great Recession. And one other thing I was just thinking is that he comes into this into office with the state enjoying a pretty healthy economic forecast. The state coffers are full and they're doing well. He's got some money to play with. So he's not coming in saying we've got to make cuts. It's more like we got to stay the course in a lot of areas and we're going to put some of this money towards programs. But what a nice way for a governor to start off his term with that kind of not having to propose anything that's draconian cuts, for instance, or anything like that. He's probably thanking his lucky stars that he's coming into office at this point.
Right. It's quite a stark contrast to former Governor Brian Sandoval, who came into office in the start of 2011 when the state was really in the throes of the recession and there was nothing but cuts effectively at that point. So now we're seeing increased funding on several of the major initiatives. So that's a big change. So that's it for us. Thank you.
Thanks.